Hey, welcome back. We have our first match of the league with Death Taxes. Looks like we're up against, for those who have Heart. Not too sure what they're on. This hand's interesting. So it's great against some of the Faerie decks of the format. The Batterskull pretty much makes this a 6. Against a combo start, this is pretty lackluster. But against the Delver deck, which have been pretty popular, this hand's actually pretty good. So I'm going to keep this. I do like the interaction of both Karakas and Wasteland as our lands. If this was just 3 basics, I would probably throw this back, but we have enough mana to cast anything that we draw into, which is great, so I'm going to keep this. Let me quickly turn off the sound. I think Aether Vial would be the best draw, but a turn 1 mum isn't too bad. The Thalia is actually a really nice threat against any sort of blue deck because we have the Karakas. So if this is Terminus, if this is Miracles, we can save the Thalia from Terminus. It's also just a creature that attacks really well, but it looks like this is going to be Force of Will, pitching another Ponder, so it doesn't give too much away. I think I'm happy just with the second planes here. The Wasteland isn't doing too much, and unless they want to fetch for a duel, I don't want to give away that I have a Wasteland yet, so I'm going to play the planes and pass. A fetch here most likely means something like an Oko or Teferi. And it's going to be Teferi. I hope to do a 2-drop or another 3-drop here. I don't really want to play the Thalia without having Karakas up. A Flickerwisp isn't too bad. Here I'm pretty happy just to hold up a planes, so that if they cast a creature, we can actually just kill it. Actually, we can't because of the Teferi. So maybe holding up the Wasteland there is better. Even if we can hit a fetch land in response to a Brainstorm, that's pretty nice. Just not allowing them the shuffle effect. Now I'm going to play the Thalia here first, and then play the Karakas, because they might let this resolve if they have removal. Ice Wing's going to be fine. A little annoying. It's a creature that draws a card, so it replaces itself straight away. So the source to Plowshares is I lose a card and they're already up a card. The Misty coming in tapped is actually really nice. Thalia turns on Wasteland, which is nice there. I think I'm happy to Swords this. Try to get into the Teferi. And then maybe hold up Rishadan Port. They're going to force it, which is really interesting. Maybe that tells me that they don't have another creature. So I think I'm happy to use the swords again. And yeah, it's going to work. So let's go with... I don't really want to get rid of Karakas. So I might play the Silent Clearing here to act like I have another white source up. I'm definitely going to hit this Misty Rainforest right now. And just pass back. Oko's pretty good. One thing to note about Oko is that Thalia keeps the legendary creature clause, if you will. Vial's a little bit too late. So here we have the option of putting in Batterskull, which I don't mind. I don't mind attacking Oko first. They'll most likely turn the Batterskull into a 3/3, but at least we can attack with it, and then perhaps Flickerwisp the Batterskull after. Swords is pretty good there. We didn't have Karakas up, unfortunately. Mystic Sanctuary is pretty good here. Getting back to the Ponder. I'm going to draw a card. Prelate's pretty nice. Prelate on 1 forces them to act with Oko, which actually isn't too bad. Because this game's going pretty long as well, I'm happy to cast this Vial first and then go for Prelate for 1. Interesting. They know about the Flickerwisp in hand. So now we get to kill the... we get to exile the food. Attack Oko, attack them. Play a land and pass. This is an interesting one. I could hit the Misty Rainforest if I wanted to force them to fetch. Forcing them to fetch puts them to 13, which turns this into a two-turn clock. I guess either way it is a two-turn clock. I think we just go for the Trop. So I wonder here if I have to play around Icewind Codal. I think I'm happy just to attack for 6 here. And keep back the Prelate. I think Prelate on 1 is really good here. Jace is pretty good. We'll see what they do with the Ponder, because that's actually very relevant. They chose not to shuffle. Sorry, they chose to shuffle. I'm gonna activate this. There's definitely no reason not to. Gonna take this up to 3. I'm happy now to kill the Jace and send one at them. If they fetch here, I know they have Swords to Plowshares. So the question is, do I put in Prelate now for 1? Or do I wait and see what they draw into? I think I'm happy waiting. I don't think this deck plays Terminus, but if it was on top, I could put this in response to the Miracle Trigger. I did mean to tap something down, I apologize there. That's a misplay. They chose not to shuffle, which is interesting. Oko is going to be fine. I can't stop Icewind Codal, but I can stop Swords to Plowshares. We'll keep this at 3. And I think he would just attack all into them. Because I believe even with Icewind Codal, it's lethal because they have to pay 1. So we get there. Cataclysm seems great. Council's Judgment seems great. I don't mind the second Recruiter. I don't mind taking out some number of probably even the full 4 Swords to Plowshares. This probably isn't where we want Tomik either. Relic-Warder is interesting, especially if we're going after their mana. It can definitely hit us back pretty hard, because they get the artifact back if this leaves play. I definitely like Gideon. And maybe Walking Ballista. I kind of like Walking Ballista over Swords to Plowshares as a removal spell. Palace Jail is an interesting one as well. With the amount of flash creatures they have, I think it's very easy for Death and Taxes to lose the crown in this sort of matchup. I could even see myself dropping a land, and maybe just keeping in one Swords to Plowshares. Especially if they bring in something like Containment Priest out of the board. I don't think Rest in Peace is worth it, just for the Snapcasters and Mystic Sanctuaries. I think we're pretty happy with this, and we'll see how it goes. This isn't an Aether Vial hand, but it's a very nice curve, and we only have to draw one land to be able to finish it. So I think I'm pretty happy to keep this hand. They forced the first one, but let this one live. Which maybe that means they have removal in hand. Phyrexian Revoker here would be very nice. Even though they played the Volk, which is a Wasteland target, I kind of like just going with Port into Thalia here. Thalia does tax them as well, and I kind of want to keep my land drops for now. This looks like a Force of Will if they're taking this much time. It's not. Interesting. Mentor's pretty good. So now we have a bit of a conundrum. The Mentor in play can be answered by the Palace Jailer, but for that to occur, I have to nearly wait a whole turn. I can't Wasteland this turn if I want to do that, but Wasteland Port is really nice here. I think because we didn't draw 2 lands here and we drew 2 spells, I'm pretty happy just to further push my mana. The one thing as well is that it's less appealing for my opponent to wipe the board with something like Supreme Verdict with their own Mentor in play. So if I play this Palace Jailer early before they get a creature in play, or at least more tokens of the Mentor, they might be more inclined to actually just Verdict away my board and then try to rebuild from there. I think I'm pretty happy with trying to take my opponent off lands. We can do a pretty good job of it right now as well. Another Wasteland, interesting. Here I believe I'm pretty happy to play this Thalia Heretic Cathar. My opponent may have been hesitant to force the Thalia because they didn't have Mentor out already. So at least now they're, although losing a Snapcaster Mage, they're getting a Mentor trigger out of it. But I'm not too worried about that. Fetch into Brainstorm is interesting. They've already played a land, so they can't actually cast anything else to pump this monk here. So they can't attack this turn with this monk, but they can attack with the Mentor itself. Which means I can just block and give protection. Did they play the Misty? Let me just quickly check. Maybe they didn't. I should know this. I'm just gonna let this slide. So I can tap out for Palace Jailer here, take the Mentor, and then still have two good blockers for the monks. That's a nice draw. Terminus. Okay. My opponent only has one mana up, which is pretty huge. It means that they can't cast something like a Snapcaster Mage in my end step. Revoker's going to be really nice at attacking their mana. Interesting. I like 2 knights as a blocker. I like Judgment on Oko, and then we can name Astrolabe. With Revoker. If they can't swords or deal with this Revoker now, the Rishadan Port on Plains is going to be vital. That's fine. Interesting that they played this first, because if they found Swords to Plowshares and a fetch land, they probably would have wanted to play that. This is definitely ticking up. Here I don't mind an attack with Gideon. I could also just keep producing knights, which doesn't seem too bad. I don't want to go too wide in case they do have something like Supreme Vertical Terminus, but because we can tap down the planes in their upkeep, I don't feel too unhappy about going wide here. So I might even play out the Mirran and then just hold the Recruiter back. Take them off mana. And then just pass. So if they brainstorm in response, they could Terminus here. Or if they Swords the Revoker. And they're going to concede, so get up against Bear Miracles, which I don't think is the easiest matchup, but we definitely have a lot of tools to deal with the threats that they pose. I'll be back for round 2.